So, yeah, so, um, yes. Okay. Hi, my name is Abdullah Syed. I am a postdoc in Jennifer Doudna's lab at the Gladstone Institutes. So I'd read about Dr. Jennifer Doudna's work on CRISPR-Cas9, on the mechanism of CRISPR-Cas9 and its application to genome editing. And genome editing, as many of you probably know, is a very promising approach to treat a variety of genetic diseases and a variety of other diseases as well. But a big challenge in being able to make therapies using genome editing is being able to deliver Cas9 or other editors into the right cells in the body. And that's what I'd been working on during my PhDs, trying to figure out how to deliver nanoparticles and different molecules to different cells in the body. So Jennifer and I had a shared interest, and when I applied to her lab, she informed me that she was starting a new lab at the Gladstone Institute that would be focused on applying some of the research that she's been conducting and figuring out new ways of applying these technologies to medicine. I love the people at Gladstone, both the investigators, the staff, and the trainees at Gladstone's are all exceptionally talented, very interesting people, and they're all pursuing fascinating, exciting projects in many different directions. So there's a wide variety of research going on at Gladstone, and that makes it really easy to conduct more ambitious research directions, because you know that you'll be able to find experts or people who are have the expertise to help you no matter which direction your project ends up taking you. I was very interested in science as a kid. My dad used to get me these books about nature and geology and a variety of other topics. So from a young age, I really liked to read about science. I didn't have much of an experience with experimental science when I was younger. I didn't really start doing that until going to college. And then in my college, we had lots of internships, alternating with our studying semesters. And that's where I really, fell in love with science and being able to do science and research in a lab setting. But my curiosity and interest in a variety of topics has not changed. I still spend a lot of time reading about random scientific topics unrelated to my research. It's still a big joy for me. So I'm currently working on a project related to SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that causes COVID-19. In particular, I'm looking at how the virus assembles and makes new particles that can spread from one person and infect other people. So we've made some very interesting tools in the lab that allow us to, basically mimic the process of virus assembly without generating actually dangerous infectious particles. And we've used that to find some really interesting properties. So one thing we found is there are some mutations that happened early on in the pandemic, and these mutations made the virus much more efficient at assembling new particles. And we think this may be one of the reasons why some of the newer variants are much more infectious, much more transmissible than the earlier variants. So we're very interested in studying this process, figuring out how it works, what these mutations do. And we're interested because this basic research could help us find a weakness in the viral assembly process that could be targeted for antiviral therapeutics. So there's some precedents for this, really detailed studies into HIV's assembly process and disassembly process led to the development of some really cool antiviral HIV inhibitors that have a lot of promise that are just going to patients now. So we hope we can do the same thing with SARS-CoV-2. As I mentioned earlier, I've been curious about science for a long time. I'd always, wanted to learn and wanted to be able to experience the process of doing science. But I think the mentors that really helped me learn the skills that allowed me to do science were, all of the internships that I did in undergrad, and also my PhD and my postdoc now. But especially, I would say I learned the most in my PhD. During my PhD, I did my PhD with Dr. Warren Chan, and I learned a whole bunch of skills that I never thought would be so important to doing science. All the soft skills, writing, communicating, managing people, managing resources, all of these things that you don't expect to be scientific, but they're very important to being able to do good science. And I just love the learning new technical skills and learning new ways of doing science. But without really good support, I think learning all the soft skills would have been really hard for me. So I would say my hidden or unique talent that most people don't realize is I have an unlimited amount of animal facts and also bad puns. I take great pleasure in making everyone in the lab cringe at my bad jokes and puns. And then when they recover from that, I give them way too many facts about animals that also make them cringe. So recently, to give an example, I've been learning about albatrosses, which are the largest birds by wingspan. And it was surprising for me to learn that they actually use less energy flying than they do, or they use the same amount of energy flying as they do resting. They use this process called dynamic soaring, where which is kind of like sailing, but in 3 dimensions. And it lets them, they go in this weird S-shaped path that lets them take and harvest energy from the wind, no matter which direction the wind is blowing. And then they use almost no effort to fly over insanely long distances, tens of thousands of miles a year, sometimes without stopping. So this is one of the animal facts. I have, unlimited numbers of these interesting tidbits.